Good evening, everyone. My name is Charles Daniels.
Mr. Daniels.
Good evening. I'd like to associate myself with the remarks made by the lady over there about getting our families involved in the tourism industry. It's great to see this industry yearning for a comeback. Not to say that I have anything against international business, but because as an architect I made quite a bit of living off of international business. But I like this. I like the idea of the swinging going back to into tourism. One of the things that I noticed about the plan, I like the plan, but I'm asking if perhaps there may be adjustment or consideration be introduced in terms of the hubs. Now, this might involve a little bit of a historical controversy, but I think the hub, the #1 hub where St. George's is, whether or not there could be consideration that hub could be divided. I think St. David's is a very under-recognized and underutilized area for a hub. The history and the culture of the St. David's Islanders is a little bit different, I think, from that of St. George's. Not to take any away from Ken Bascom and company, but I think the Fox and the Fogo families and also the Daniels families down at St. David's also could use some recognition. I think that the history that St. David's Island has, we have NASA down there. I think that's very underutilized and unrecognized as part of Bermuda's history. I think we should look at the idea of having some kind of a space museum or something down there to add to the attractions that could be in this particular hub. Also, I noticed that the Bermuda Land Development Company was not listed as one of the major players. I know you had St. George's Development Corporation, you had West End, and you had Corporation of Hamilton, but the Bermuda Land Development Company for somehow seemed to be not in there. So I think that needs some recognition in that.
Mr. Daniels, do you have a question?
Yes, and finally, could you guys look at why, if it hasn't been thought of, the master plan that was done for the South Side, if it was included in any of the deliberations that came out of this whole thing. But I think St. David's needs to be a separate parish anyway. Thank you.
For Reverend St. David.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. I'm going to take some license here. I think I'm right in claiming that I'm the only one that's sitting on the board that has St. David's Island connection. My family being the Caseys and the Pitchers. So, you know, I will certainly lobby for special attention to be given to St. David's on the East End. In fact, I've always been a separatist. I thought that maybe St. David's should separate from the rest of Bermuda. We've got, you know, we've got an airport down there. We had Colonel Lamb who was in the regiment. I had great ambitions for St. David's in the past, but St. David's certainly has a lot of history, and we see that integrating nicely with the whole definition of the East End hub. I also am mindful that when the Bermuda Land Development Company was first set up and the master plan was done for that area, I actually was the chairman of the board of the Bermuda Land Development Company back then, so I do have quite a bit of information and insight in terms of what was intended in the original Southside development scheme. But you know, this kind of highlights again, we've got so many natural resources in Bermuda that are sitting there and can be developed very quickly with little capital, major capital requirement. And this is something that if all Bermudians mobilized and saw these opportunities in these hubs, we can very quickly bring to market some new products, some new services that we can start selling to a niche market. So, you know, you highlight the fact when you underlying the importance of St. David's. And I think if we stop and think about every hub that's been identified, you will see that we've got jewels in each one of these hubs that just need to be taken out and repolished. And very quickly, we've got something that's exciting that we can offer. And it just takes imagination. It just takes some time to imagine. And I think this plan provides that opportunity for new hope through imagination. Thank you.
Thank you. Question from the floor. Your name?
Good evening, Tina. Marlene Bicchieri. Thank you very much for inviting us to this. I'm sorry we were late, so I missed the plan. My husband, fortunately, was working tonight. My questions are two. We happen to be in Hamilton today, and I was glad to hear that and reinforce that we do have a visitors bureau. I would like to recommend, in addition to what we do have on the table, that perhaps we follow something that New York City does, where they have Big Apple greeters, to suggest Bermuda onions on the streets. I happened to be parked in front of Butterfield today, and there were 4 tourists walking around with maps looking for the Anglican church and which way to go. And they asked other tourists who didn't know where to go, and I said, well, let me help you, and got out of the car, pointing them in the right direction. So that was one thing, to have them not only at the visitors' bureaus, but perhaps identifiable on the streets beyond Front Street, and so forth. And then secondly, I happen to work for Mr. Dodwell, selling our fractional shares, and thankfully that's going well. But a couple of the things that we have been brought to our attention are the cost of our foods here. And then on a different subject was transportation, the cost of our taxis, and the bus schedule. And we're very fortunate, we have 2 bus stops right outside our property. But just last Friday night, we had guests who didn't know how to get around. I thought the buses ran past 12, but not on South Shore. So just helping our tourists get around and the transportation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I think the greeting was a good idea, and we'll certainly make a note of it. And
I just basically wanted to speak to your question with regards to the tourism, circulation, and the transportation. That is a major part of the infrastructure program, addressing the circulation issues as well as the transportation, making sure that there is adequate signage around for our tourists to understand and know where they are going and how to get there. So that is a part of the plan.
Ms. Keys, sorry, Marlene, you need to come to the microphone. Thank you.
How late do the buses and taxis, because we did try calling a taxi first, and when we called the first dispatcher, she said, I called 30 minutes ago, maybe you'll get a taxi, maybe you won't. Called a second one, called Southampton Princess and said, do you have any taxis out there? Not at this hour. So can we engage the taxi drivers to work a little bit later?
Maybe the panel
I do.
Maybe the panel wants to talk about, when we have the stakeholders meetings, some of those meetings with the taxi.
Yes, actually, in terms of the transportation, we had some really interesting meetings with the taxis themselves, and they were very open to bringing new transportation solutions to the table with the support, being given the opportunities and the support, so they were really excited to engage and bring solutions. They have ideas, they just need a green light, so I think that's very encouraging.
I can't resist the temptation to tell you the ministers in the audience, and I think he heard you.
Yes. Acknowledge the new Minister of Transport, the Honorable Walter Willett. Another question from the floor. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Antonia Mills, and I think this is a fabulous plan. I'm very intrigued and interested in helping out as well. I have a question regarding the marketing. You talked about how we can promote Bermuda with the new hubs, but I'm interested to know if you have, in your research, discovered any
Thank you, Ms. Mills.
I'll start by saying we have recently retained a new agency, and we've come up with a brand new campaign. We're hoping that we're in a position to unveil it in the very near future, and it addresses many of the things that you have spoken about. It will speak to how we propose to engage in social media, how we propose to engage in print and in television and in radio. We hope to have that within about 2 weeks. We should be getting that and then rolling it out.
No little snippet tonight.
I can't give away the trade secret this evening, but we're getting close.
Good for you. She's got a marketing background.
Just to add to that, absolutely. I mean, when we're talking about the niche marketing, and exactly what you're saying, going to the niche market by looking at the media that that niche market is looking at. For example, the golfing, the divers, the cliff jumpers, all these kinds of things. The adventure people, eco, etc., etc. So really looking at lifestyle segments and the kinds of media that they are looking at. Very targeted, very focused on what the product offer is of Bermuda and taking that to the right market. And that's very much the new approach.
So I see you in 2 weeks.
Well done. Thank you. We have one more question from the floor.
Thank you very much about with the plan. I think it's a wonderful plan. And my name is Bruce Simons. My dad was Nami Simons. He used to own Casey's Bar. I actually go back some time ago with tourism as well. And I've seen it come a long ways. My dad's not here today, but I would have to say, if you do Gable, you must do Crown and Anchor. Up she comes. Okay. We actually took some time out, my brother and I, and we're trying to put together something with respect to the younger generation of people. We like to see to it that they actually get an opportunity, if gaming is allowed, to come into this, to learn the traditional Bermuda games like Crown and Anchor, real time. Because we believe that it's a traditional thing. If you come from Las Vegas, you still need to understand Crown and Anchor. I think some people here would agree with that. Okay, and we also want to do it luxury style too. So you may see us in our little Bermuda shorts and not the typical long pants when we're doing this style. We actually put together, and I'll give this to the director later, but we'll put together a little something to try to produce a school to help teach some of the things that we've learned from people like my father. And you know I'm president. Okay, thank you very much, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. From the floor, your name.
Good evening. My name is Pernell Riley. I think having a plan is one thing. I think my concern, as I expressed to the minister when I heard the sort of press release, was given, for instance, that in the past 7 years or so, tourism spending has averaged around about $400 million. That to go from $400 million to quadruple to almost $1.5 billion seems to be, to put it mildly, a little bit ambitious. And in terms of getting there in 10 years, also seems very, very ambitious, given the components that have to come together. We had some very severe carrying capacity issues in 1987. The hotels that have to be built, all of those things that have to come together. I think the first question I have is, how realistic is this plan for 10 years? The second thought that I have is that with tourism now bringing in 5% of foreign exchange, and you're planning to grow that to 1.5, I can't remember the figure that you used to say what was going to contribute to GDP. I think the other question I would have is, in terms of the overall economy with international business, are we expecting international business to shrink,
or how we're expecting the whole economy to grow, and tourism's contribution to foreign exchange will be about the same. I don't think that was clear. So I don't have all the details, but those are the questions that I have in mind, so I very much look forward to seeing the plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you for the question. When it comes to the visitor expenditure, well, before I talk about the targets, the arrival targets is set very high. It's set to the achievable number that we have. Also, what we see is that currently, let's say cruise arrivals that surpassed already the air arrivals have spent a lot less money than the air arrivals. So when we change that, when we create that shift, we see there's a lot of opportunity, and the growth is actually exponential, like you see when it comes to tourism expenditure, tourism income that can be received. Additionally, with all the activities that we're proposing, so there's a lot more multiple areas where tourism can spend in the island. So there's also an additional assumption that the tourist is going to spend more than it currently is today. So like Anita explained when she was talking, we said there's going to be more people with more options and more spending opportunities in a longer season. So that's why the growth, it seems very high, and also because that concentration of air versus cruise, so that rebalancing will also increase the current expenditure. So yes, it's an aggressive growth. It can be achievable according to this plan. When it comes to the GDP contribution, currently what we projected is that it'll grow a bit faster with this plan than if it would maintain the current growth, or the organic growth, as we would like to say. So in an organic growth scenario, it will grow at 3%, and what we are projecting is that it will grow at a 5% rate because of all the additional activities and all the different opportunities that this plan can offer. So that's the way the calculations are made.
Hi. And we'd be happy to share with you also the way that we calculated the breakdown of visitor expenditure. We took the air arrival expenditure and the cruise arrival expenditure and calculated what people are spending on today, and then calculated the projection on the breakdown in terms of accommodation, F&B, retail, etc., etc., etc. So we did the projections based on the breakdown today and what the breakdown will be in the future. If you consider practical things, for example, the time that shops are open, restaurants, etc., etc., there are so many new opportunities that can be created. This is also a national benchmark, so we can share that with you in a later stage if you like. That information is available.
Yeah, this question of, is this a realistic plan? I think it is a realistic plan. Its dependencies on the hubs, its dependencies on creating new activities within the hubs, I think is very doable. It's also targeting the niche market. There's a lot of research being done to actually identify and track that niche market to our sports tourism product, our cultural tourism product, our business and convention product. And I think it's very doable to establish new services within the hubs to support each of these target niche markets. So I believe it's a plan to a large extent that requires a lot of coordination, which is probably the most difficult part of the plan. But the activities, once established, I believe will generate the interest and generate the demand for the niche market that we'll be going at seeking to attract to.
Thank you. Another question from the floor. Sir?
Good evening to the panel. My name is Dennis Weston. My first question to ask is, well, first I want to emphasize of all the previous question asked that we do agree, and I also agree with the plan. It is a successful plan. It looks to be successful. My only question is, how do you guys plan to attract and make it more attractive to a younger generation? Because as a lot of people have stated before, in the past, in the 80s and or in the early 90s, you heard people talk about they've been coming for 30 years, 40 years. Now this is in the 80s. What about the young people, my age? Because I, as a local comedian, I do at times find Bermuda boring. But, you know, in Bermuda, we can, even though it's going on this day, it might be something happening tomorrow, but for tourists, you know, I wonder, what do they do, right? What do they do to entertain themselves for a young person my age? So I want to know what, in that plan, do you have to make it more attractive to a younger age of tourists, per se 18 to 29 to 30? And my second question is, no disrespect to the panel, but, you know, those that do look, except for the young lady, you know, outside of the 18 to 30 range. How would a young person like myself be able to get on the tourism tour?
I've done my best. I knew that was young enough, but you got to believe I've done my best. But on a more serious note, the minister has been concerned about this, and what he's asked me to do is to set up a junior board of young people so that we can make sure we have the connect between what young people are looking for, and to your point, if I'm home at night, you'll make sure they're having a good time. But we certainly thank you for that, and we hope to be able to introduce that board in the very near future.
I'd just quickly like to respond about the experiences for the younger generation, how the plan addresses that. Okay. Absolutely. I mean, this is an excellent point, and this is something that is covered in the plan, and something that's absolutely critical. We really looked at how the Bermuda can be brought to life. For example, in the evening, experiences that people can have when the sun goes down, experiences that people can have that they have in leading destinations internationally that Bermuda doesn't have yet. Many of these experiences you can bring with very little investment, and that comes in the quick wins. So there's a lot of activities that you experience when you go to other destinations that we believe can also be developed here. So that includes, for example, the dining, entertainment in the evening. A very important part of the sports tourism product is packaging sports and adventure experiences for the younger market. We think this is a very exciting opportunity, and you've got all the resources here. It's just a question of packaging that and going after that young market. So we see that as a great opportunity. In terms of culture, we mentioned that cultural tourism is a very important product. There's lots of initiatives that we've come up with in terms of partnering, for example, with young universities or with colleges or schools, where students are studying culture and art and music and bringing those students. So again, as I spoke before and we explained about the niche product development, so too, niche products for the youth need to be developed that mirror the overall vision and strategy for tourism development in Bermuda.
If I could just add to that comment, and no disrespect for the over 40 crowd here. I think it's important because you answered your own question. The people who are 80 years old are no longer coming, they've been coming here for 40 years. Do the math, they were in their 40s when they came to Bermuda. Bermuda had a very consistent adult population of visitors coming for 50, 60 years. And by and by, we're seeing the same sort of pattern. Does that mean we do not entertain the younger? No, of course not. We need to bring that up. But don't discount your customers who are actually paying your bills now. I think it's very important that we understand this concept that we must better service our good clients, our good customers. There are people still coming to Bermuda 20, 30, and 40 years. Let's find out, let's thank them, work with them, and work with their friends. And to a question about marketing, much of the discussions we had and many of the meetings we had, the most effective marketing for Bermuda is word of mouth. A good experience, a great time, a great new friendship. Come on down to Bermuda, love it. So let's not overlook that we have to spend a lot of money on big things. Good manners, to the lady's point, stopping your car, helping someone in need. Good manners will drive tourists to Bermuda as much as anything, any overblown marketing deal. You know, being a little bit on the roll here too, just equal opportunity on the issue of gaming. Gaming has not been seen as a major driver for people coming to Bermuda. It hasn't. It's an auxiliary thing. It's an offering off to one side. We have cultural, economic, we have eco things that are here now that people are asking for. They want to know more. They more of the nautical stuff. So we don't have to create an awful lot of new products right now. We just have to amplify and do a better, more kind job of the things that we already have. And I I think the first 3 years of this plan builds in on that, fills in the empty beds in the shoulder season. That is the critical part of this plan. Understand that we must fill in the shoulder seasons, and then the rest of the development will take off. That's our goal. It's a very easy plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lister. We have one more question from the floor.
Good evening all. Caroline Folger is my name. Thank you for the plan. I want to congratulate everyone on the courage, because there's been a lot of talk over the last several years about a new tourism plan for Bermuda, and quite a few of the ideas kicked around have mostly been repolishing and trying to get Bermuda back to how it used to be. So everybody involved here, I think, is really shown a lot of courage and really going outside the box. The Minister and the Prime Minister for thinking of it, all of the consultants and everyone. So congratulations. Moving on, I have two questions, if I may. The first one is, we've spoken a lot about the products that Bermuda can develop and the involvement you've had with stakeholder engagement and consultation locally. We are focusing on most of what we've heard today is the product we can sell. How much have we done on working out what it is that people actually want to buy? And how much actually dialogue with the customer have we had? And then my second question is, what is the most significant thing in your mind that could potentially go wrong, and therefore this plan will not be realised? And let's have a plan to make sure that doesn't happen.
You heard me talk about the advertising agency, and I spent some time with them a couple of weeks ago, where we went across the eastern seaboard, the coast, interviewing potential customers for Bermuda. And I was behind a mirror they couldn't see, and I could hear everything they were saying. And we were asking them the very questions. What is it you're looking for? What is it you think you like about Bermuda? What is it you don't like about Bermuda? In some cases, some of them had heard very little. And we certainly made note of what it's going to take to get those customers. And just share one of the things that came home is that we need to consider more the family business. Our people that we're looking for are high income earners, relatively high, and they travel with their families. And I was amazed at the influence of the children to the extent of where they're going to have a vacation and what they want to do. And if we don't find a way to start to cater to them, we're losing a great potential business. I've said to the people that were with me that I came up in a different era. My parents decided that they were good, and if it was suitable for us, we went, and if it wasn't, they went and we stayed home. But things have changed, and we must change them.
Just to respond to the question about what people are looking for. I mean, internationally, the trends, the research that we've done, the people that we've spoken to, all the information that we've collected during the diagnostic, people are looking for authentic experiences. They want to come to Bermuda and experience something that they can't have anywhere else. They want something special, they want the connections, and that's why when we presented that slide regarding the authentic emotional and the authentic physical, that's really what people are looking for. The other thing that people are looking for is value for money. These luxury consumers who have a lot of cash to spend, they are looking for value for money. All the consumers are looking for value for money. It's a very, very competitive business out there. That's why the plan addresses the issue of quality so strongly and the need to create a value experience in the physical facilities and also to the people. This is very important. The consumers are very informed and they are shopping very competitively. So value is a critical piece that they are looking for. Thank you.
On the issue of risk to this plan, I believe it comes down to our leadership. I believe it comes down to Bermudians rallying around this plan. And if we have strong leadership, and if we do rally around this plan is a very good plan.
Thank you. We'll take another question from the floor.
Good evening. My name is Donald. I don't know, I got in a little late, but I wanted to ask a question. This has been a burning question that I've had for a long time. Having been a busboy at age 14 at one little house, having been a busboy at Castle Harbor at 15 and 16 and 19, we have Bermudians We sold Bermuda. It was Bermudians. It was our charm. It was our personality. I don't know if I saw any of you guys in London. I don't know. You was a trooper. I did the counts. I don't know about Mr. Cameron. My thing is, what we really need, the bottom line is, we need national pride. And I think the government, I'm not picking on governments, and we can go back to the other government, they put a lot of emphasis on international business, i.e. my dad told me that you gotta get an education, you don't ever want to be in the hotel business. And so I think the seeds that were planted way back was a discouragement seed that didn't allow our people to bring to the fore what was introduced to the world. We introduced it, resort tourism. That's all right. I mean, Mark Twain said in his book that Americans, like some of you people, on their way to heaven, they call in on Bermuda and believe they have already arrived. We had national pride. Now, I'm not knocking people that come here looking for an opportunity to work. We need them. However, I don't know if you spoke about the training program. You spoke about that? Okay, so I'll leave it alone. But we need to, what's it called? The students in beach? That's bad. They never did what they had to do with respect to training Bermudians. They just opened up, and it was like willy-nilly. My thing is personal. Now, I don't want to start now.
Mr. Smith, are you going to have a question?
Well, my question is...
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me in line.
Thank you.
My question is this, right? Is there a concerted effort to go into the schools and catch the children at age 5 and show them what steps they need to take, supported by the National Training Board and the government, so that at least by the time they get 15 or 20, they'll be in the hotel business. Because not everybody's going to get a college degree. You can just, that's a given. I want to know, can you speak to, can you speak to the national training program that's going to see us turn around ourselves so that we can bring back our national pride? Because yes, it came coming from Czechoslovakia, and you don't understand that I'm ordering orange juice and you're bringing me a steak. Speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
We addressed a bit of it before, and I'll try to do it again. We believe that if we grow the seasonality, the introduction of some new hotels, and I understand you're going to help us there, we'll begin to get our people re-involved in the industry again. It's when they see that they can make a halfway decent living out of tourism again. I remember my cousins who were older than me, who worked in the hotel. The one thing I learned about them, they always had cash. Because at the end of each night, when they were finished working, the money that was left on the table, you could always go to them and you could count on them to have some cash. And I think we'll get back to those days as we begin to grow the business. And we'll get the pride back in it. Together we will, and together we must.
Your Worshipful Mayor of St. George's, you will be the last question of questions.
That's understood. This is where the history all began.
Absolutely.
First of all, make GPS optional and the taxis will be on the street. That's for you, Mr. Minister. I had the opportunity to speak with the two young ladies and Mr. Cameron, and I want to say thank you for taking some of the initiatives that myself and my two persons had the opportunity to present. However, I didn't hear anything about genealogy tourism. I didn't hear anything about nostalgia tourism. We've had millions of people here stationed on our bases over the years. I believe that is a market that we can just tap. We saved the first colonies of Virginia from starvation. We gave Virginia its first cash crop, which was tobacco. The Eastern Seaboard is there, and as you heard me say, It's a short getaway for a perfect holiday. Have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Baskin. We'll make notes.
Okay. All right. I want to give the panelists a big round of applause for stepping out, sharing with us, and very informative program. Thank you, welcome. And I think Ms. Rona Anderson said it best, that it's all now up to us to keep it moving forward. I'd like to acknowledge a couple of quick things. There are some young people who recently are in the industry. They just won scholarships. I believe 2 of them are here. The David Allen scholarships. We're going to be doing a press about them. But you talk about young people that are going to be vitalized and in the industry, and we're proud of them and look for, will you please stand if you're here? I think you're here. One here and one here. Yeah. They'll have internships here and in New York, in our New York office, and you'll be hearing more about them. I want to thank you on behalf of the Ministry of Business Development and Tourism for coming out tonight. We wanted to stay. Look at that. Excellent time. Now that's Bermuda time. We did it in Bermuda time now. So we are all proud to bring Bermuda. We thank you. The minister, again, not feeling great, so you don't want to bombard it right now. But the chairman and the vice chairman and members of the board will be here if you want to stick around for a couple of minutes. Have a great evening. Be safe, and thank you for coming in.